Intro.
Yep.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ramp Booth. We are here live on the Ocean City Boardwalk here at All Campus. I'm your host for today, Brandon Pockris, joined by...
What's up, guys? John Coyle here at All Campus. Guys, come on up. Beautiful day. Come get your hats. Come check out the boardwalk, man. Just get out for Memorial Weekend. It's the start of the summer. It's packed out here. It's a beautiful weather. The sun's hiding a little bit. No wind. It's great up here today.
Yeah, so we got a fun show for you guys today, and just gonna throw up the poll question here for the show.
Yep.
The poll question today is: Philadelphia fans have it tougher than New York fans. So that's really going to be the frame of today's entire show because, New York, Philly, bitter rivals in basically every sport.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of shared sadness, a lot of shared disappointment between these two fan bases, these two cities over the past few years.
Yeah, it definitely has been. I mean, you got just this past year with Philly sports in general, that's what I love and that's what I know, and I agree to the poll. Philly fans definitely have it worse. I mean, we have had the expectations of getting to the big dance and getting to the finals of almost every sport, and we have accomplished that pretty much in every sport and have fallen short at the big game, at the big moments. That's just debilitating. That's heart-wrenching. There's absolutely nothing worse for a fan than to get all the way to the finals and lose. I know it's probably worse for the players, of course, but as a fan, man, you put all your emotions and you put all your loyalties, and a lot of people put their money into it. Us getting there and everything, and then to come up short every single time is just it's heartbreaking.
And then you have the other side of it when it comes to New York, because you could argue it's the opposite of Philly.
Yeah.
Expectations may not be there, but they're making it to that point.
Correct.
New York, a lot of times, whether you've looked at hockey, where it's been the Rangers in past years, or it's been the Islanders in past years, you look at, I wouldn't say football because the Giants and Jets are more so back on the upswing.
Right.
But really, more so, you see it in baseball with the Mets and Yankees. These are teams that have making it far in the playoff aspirations,
big
World Series aspirations. And let's face it, that's not been the reality the past few years.
Right.
Not to mention the Jets being terrible for the past decade plus and finally starting to come out of that. The Giants being really bad for the past 5, 6, 7 years. The Knicks. The Knicks hadn't won a playoff series in almost a decade.
And to New York's point, it's not worth them not spending the money and trying to do it, right? The expectations are through the roof for every one of those teams. Especially like the Nets, like you talked about, went out there and they spent tons of money, gave up all their draft capital, right? They made a lot of big moves to try to get good, and it hasn't didn't happen for them. They're now in not a rebuild, I guess, but they're a change of culture completely for them. And now you have the Knicks. They're on the uptick right now. Jalen Brunson, that was a big signing for them. He turned into be one hell of a player, and you're putting pieces around him, R.J. Barrett and other pieces like that, to really make a team that can compete for years to come.
Yeah, so I think now is as good a time as ever to really answer the poll question.
Yeah.
So I'll get us started. Look, I'm not going to say one city has it completely worse than the other.
Right.
But I'd say, in like a 10-year probably time span, I think New York definitely has had it worse. I think if we're looking at more of the long-term reach and not just, a short-term window. Because short-term window,
right.
The fact that Phillies had the Eagles lose in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Sixers continuously be
second round outs.
A step or two away from the finals when they have the talent.
Yeah.
The Phillies losing in the World Series. You won't even extend it. The Union losing.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
It's getting to the mountaintop and then heartbreak immediately.
Yep.
But over the past few years, or past 10 years, I'd say, Philly that expectation wasn't really there.
It was never there.
A lot of those teams, Philly fans didn't expect them to be good. It was the process.
Yep.
It was getting to that point.
Yep.
The Eagles loading up on draft picks and building that foundation after the Carson Wentz year.
Correct.
The Phillies building that foundation, getting Harper, getting Turner, building out that roster.
Right.
It's been the build-up, and the heartbreak has been because of that build-up.
Yeah.
New York, Adam Gase with the Jets, Todd Bowles, the back half Rex Ryan. Jets have won the longest, or they're tied for the longest playoff drought in professional sports.
Right.
Up until the past 3 years, the Mets were basically the laughingstock of baseball with the Wilpons.
Right.
They had one good run, and otherwise it was just misery. Misery.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the headlines that were coming out. Jonas Cespedes out for a season because he got attacked by a wild boar. The Knicks didn't win a playoff series for almost a decade. You want to go even further? The Devils were terrible for years. The Islanders were terrible for years. The Rangers were probably the most consistent team, and they've come up short every single season.
Yeah.
So it's like you keep going and going over the longer time frame. I would say New York's had it worse.
Right.
But it hasn't been by much, and that's the thing. That's why you're having this debate right now.
Right, yeah. And listen, you left out one team in that whole New York, and it's that damn Yankees, that evil empire up there that always has that expectations, always has that bankroll. They've come up short.
But you could argue the Yankees haven't been really that type of team since 2009. That adds to it as well.
I think that's true, but I think the expectations of it is always there.
Which then makes it worse. Because the expectation's always there and they're always coming up short.
You can argue it makes it worse. As a Philadelphia fan, besides the past 3 years, our expectations, we haven't even had that to live up to. Like, we haven't even had that to be thankful for. Like, going into a season, New York usually is like, all right, this is our year. You know, we have a chance. We have the roster. We have the build out. You know, this could be the year we do it. Philadelphia, we've never had that chance of saying that, right? Yeah, you had that World Series in 2008. Okay, that's how far we're going back to that. Then we had the World Series run with the Phillies, and then you had the miracle Super Bowl run, right? But after that, it's been kind of bland. Like you said, the Sixers went through the process, and it doesn't look like that's ever going to get completed. You had the Flyers, which are just a complete dumpster fire. That franchise is just a complete joke right now. Maybe the laughing stock of all sports.
It's close. It's definitely close.
It's bad. And then you go back, and Jonesy and Danny Briere may be good, but it's back into the old regime of, hey, ex-Flyer come in and try to save us. We've seen that story. It usually doesn't work. And then you have the Phillies, who are doing the right things, but it just seems like we can't ever get that back end of our bullpen.
It's the process is right, but the results aren't there.
The results aren't there.
The results aren't there.
Yeah, and that's been this constant for us over and over and over. I just feel like Philly fans are now, I'm not going to say jaded, but
they're guarded. They're very guarded.
We're very guarded. That's a good word for it. Yeah, we're very guarded to expectations. Where New York fans, you always have expectations.
It's always the expectation. You see the photoshops of all the guys in the Yankee uniform, the Knick uniform. Is now become like that with the Mets. Where it's like the expectation's always here. Where Philly, it's like, the same thing's happening. But then again, you could argue that with the Mets, different aspects like that. So,
yeah, the Mets is the one team where it feels like they're always leading going to the end of the year, and they find a way to implode, right? And as Philly fans, we love that. We know it's coming. It's kind of expected now. It's the only thing that we can really hang our hat on in the New York-Philly debate, and we love it.
You could also argue the Phillies are like that, but a little bit further down the line.
Correct. In the playoffs, we kind of implode.
Getting at some of the comments, we got Tom saying, screw New York.
Ah, boy.
We got Jake saying he's going to agree to the poll. They have the Yankees. That was discussed heavily.
There it is. Yep.
We got Jimmy J saying Boston. That's one I'm going to really disagree with.
Yeah, I mean.
Look, I get it. You could say the past few years. You've had the Celtics in the championship almost, 3 of the past, 5 seasons or something along those lines. Or they're getting there every year. You had Tom Brady.
I was just about
years.
to say that. Yeah. You have the best dynasty that ever was, possibly.
You had the Bruins.
Yeah.
And you had the Red Sox, who, the Red Sox have fallen off a little bit, but you had decent amount of championships from them in the past few
no
years.
one's crying for Boston.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that brings us to another point, which we'll get into after some of the comments. Boston might be going back to another championship.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that. Yep.
So we got Ryan saying, I honestly wish I wasn't from Philly because of how the fans are. Diehard Philly fan, unlike any other, but the fans and the way they act out and show themselves make me not want to be from Philly. We're supposed to be a city of brotherly love. We're far from that as a sports fan base. I can't stop loving my teams, but at times I wish I did just because of how the fans act. So far from love. That's a very...
Let me answer this one.
Well, no. I want to say something because it's very interesting that Philly gets such a bad rep.
Right.
Where you could argue that Yankees fans are even worse. Mets fans have been worse. Every fan base has their moments.
Correct.
Philly just gets that rep because it's Philly. It's easy to associate it with it.
So, Ryan, I love you and I appreciate the support, and I always love seeing you up here at All Campus, but screw you on this. All right? We are what we are because of what we've been through. All right? We are a top 5 market in all sports. We are one of the oldest franchises in all sports. And we have nothing to show for it. Every other city has more than what Philadelphia does. We have a reason to feel slighted, and we have a reason to act out. And Philly fans do it. I think we just get a bad media rap more than anything.
Well, it's very similar to the LOL Mets narrative that isn't always there, but people always jump to it. It's the same narrative, the same old Jets narrative.
Right.
You see this with sports media. It's the same with for example, how basketball is covered.
Yeah.
In the mainstream media. It's very easy for people to jump to narratives no matter what the context and no matter what the situation actually says.
Right.
And a lot of times you see that with Philly.
Yep.
And, there are times where that's warranted. 100%. But it's never 100% of the time. It's never just this 100%, Philly's always the worst.
We're dirtballs and we're scum. Yeah, it's not that way. We usually have a reason or a philosophy of why we are that way.
The Yankees literally ran Joey Gallo out of town last year and almost made him not want to play baseball. There are fan bases that have done worse.
Yeah.
But Philly gets that rep. So Ryan also says we're a passionate fan base, but the way the passion is displayed is not far from being the city brotherly love. Show the passion a good way, not an evil way. We kind of went over that. Don saying what's up? What's up, Don?
What's up, Don?
Ryan also said show the frustration a caring way. He said Detroit fans are laughing at this topic, you bastard.
You know what? They might be one. But you guys had the Red Wings for a long time too. And that was a while ago.
I'll give them Detroit. I mean, is there a good Yeah, no, there's not a good team in Detroit.
No, I mean the Lions have never won.
The Lions
Tigers
are finally coming out of it, but the Tigers, Detroit I'm gonna have to give because let's run down the list real quick, right?
Yep.
Pistons.
Yeah.
Middle of rebuild.
Yeah.
They lost out on Wembayama. They could have been.
Oh, that would have been
number
big,
one.
Yeah.
They're now 5.
Yep.
They not just missing out on Wembayama, missing out on Scoot Henderson as well.
Yep.
The Detroit Tigers, big rebuild. But
they haven't been relevant in a while.
But Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, they've been fine, but they haven't been the uber number 1 type prospect that you've expected of guys of their caliber. The Red Wings, I don't think the Red Wings have a good season since 15.
90.
They've been bad for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the Lions are that city's redeeming hope right now because they're finally on the upswing.
But they were one of the worst franchises in a long time.
Exactly. So Detroit definitely.
Yeah, I give you
Detroit,
Don. Yeah.
Whoever said that is soft and not a true Philly guy. Get him out of here.
Who are you talking about? Is that towards Ryan or is that towards me? I don't know who you're talking to.
I guess Ryan.
Towards Ryan?
Yeah.
I said the same thing. Yeah, Ryan, I love you though, boy.
Dynasty for the Eagles. Otherwise, we're fair weather fans. That is a very interesting take. That is a very because I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Even with not being a Philly fan, I feel like it's funny that I feel like Philly's the one city in a sense that will hate watch their teams.
Yes. Yeah. And we do. We literally pay money knowing we're going and booing in this game.
Yeah, no,
right?
Exactly. And I feel like New York fans do that to an extent too. Like you see how the Mets fan base is.
Yeah.
They showed up even when they were horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. Yeah. The Knicks were one of the worst teams in basketball for years, and they still sold out.
Sold out every game. Yeah, I mean,
look, attendance doesn't always show the full story.
Correct.
And I feel like just going based off attendance, there's other factors, work, traffic. Like it's not as simple as, oh, there's not fans here, they don't care.
Yeah, I think New York has the biggest factor, right? And you have the mecca of stadiums, right? MSG's the mecca.
But I would not go as far to call Philly fair weather fans. I just that's not something I can associate with the fans of that city.
Yeah, 100% we're not fair weather fans, especially like I said, is we'll pay to go boo, right? The only reason you're seeing it with the Flyers, right? The Flyer Stadium was empty the past 2 years at the end of the year, completely empty, is because we're absolutely fed up with that team because they were the ones that kind of had expectations, right? And we just get demolished by injuries or we just get demolished by bad play or bad goaltending or whatever it was. I think the fans are just fed up with that.
To this point, though, the fact saying, look at the Phillies, they're good, sell out, bad years, looks like the Vet and half empty. If I were to pick one Philly fan base outside of, I'd say probably go Flyers, and then the Phillies are probably the one you could argue.
Correct.
Is fair weather. You could argue it. I don't think they are.
Right.
But you could definitely argue it because of how things like that happen.
Yeah, I mean, let's not kid ourselves, guys. If a team's doing good in any city, they're going to sell out. If a team's doing bad in any city, it's not going to do as good, right? Even though we are a top 5 market, that holds true to us too. If a team's doing good, we'll go out and support it. If a team's going bad, yeah, it happens that way. But it happens in LA. It happens in New York. It not New York so much.
Well,
but it happens in other cities.
Well, here's the thing: the Jets, when the Jets haven't been good, half their stadium's been opposing fans.
Correct.
The Mets in their bad years, they didn't sell out.
Right.
When you're good, the tickets sell more.
Everything's good.
Everyone wants to be there.
Right, and it's just not even ticket sales, right? When a sports town is doing good, your revenue goes up for bars, restaurants. My store, when Phillies do good, I sell more Phillies hats. Like, that's just the way the world works. It has nothing to do with the fan base being fair weathered or anything.
Yeah. Don says the one fan base I kind of feel bad for even being a Detroit fan is Oakland. Here's the problem with Oakland, though. They don't even have teams anymore. All their teams are leaving.
Right.
The Raiders, gone. The A's, gone. Technically, the Warriors, gone.
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for the fan base towards the teams because I think the teams are what they are. That city has let them down, right? They're not rebuilding a stadium for them. The city's not putting out the energy to keep these teams there.
But that's a whole different conversation.
It is.
When you get into like taxpayer funds and how much should taxpayers
I
pay
get
for a
it all,
stadium
but I don't put that on the teams.
Absolutely
That's
not.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. We got Brian saying what's up. Rob saying New York. There we go.
Come on, Robbie.
He said, I say we have it pretty tough equally. I could definitely get behind that.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't know how to feel to the poll. I feel like most of the major market teams like New York and Philly fans will always have good times and bad times. I can definitely agree with that. And then
I feel that way too, bro.
and then getting back to another answer from Ryan, we as a passionate fan base also put so much pressure on the players. They know how much we care that they try way too hard. They aren't when they aren't doing good, rather than let it come to them, they try to overdo that.
Right.
Is that way lots of players do bad in Philly? Once they leave Philly, they do really good because they can relax and don't have a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, I think that's a topic that we wanted to talk about too. Is how the media and the fan base kind of runs players out of the city, right? We've seen it in Philadelphia so much, and I love Mitch Williams. He does a show here, guys. If you haven't seen it, please catch it with him and Tom. But he was one of them, right? He did not deserve what he got from our fan base after that World Series in '93. But that's what Philadelphia fans do, right? We run players out of our city. If they have one bad year, they are deemed a failure for us, and that's not fair. Sometimes we do need to give a little bit of leeway, right? We see it with Nick Castellanos right now, right? He had a horrible year last year,
and now
everyone was
tables
calling for his head.
flipped.
Yeah, and now he's probably our best hitting player right now. And I'm glad we didn't run him out. I'm glad he had the thick skin to hold it through this market and this media.
The problem is, every fan base, and I feel like you see this a lot with the big market fan bases, like your New Yorks, like your Phillies, like your Bostons, like your. I wouldn't even say LA to that extent, because as big of a market as LA is, they're not. West Coast is a lot different than
Correct.
the
East Coast is always better. Yep.
It's always the vocal minority that causes the most issues for these players.
Yep.
Because if you really look at it, at the end of the day, when you're talking about these sports, there's a lot of nuance.
Right.
Like a lot of fans will boo, but they're booing because of a result. They're booing because of something they're upset with, right?
Yep.
They're not booing every single time. They're booing if a guy goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Okay, that probably warrants a boo. If a guy's struggling, fans are going to boo.
Yeah.
But it's the fans that boo every single time. It's the fans that attack the players on Twitter. It's the fans that...
And the worst part is you do have them.
Right. It's the fans that, for some reason, go after players' families. And that, it's that small group of people...
Right.
Where the players see that and they think it's the totality, when really it's the most minuscule portion of a fan base.
Yeah.
And obviously you're going to have players that struggle. You're going to have players that, are just bad.
Yeah.
It's the reality of the situation.
Right.
Not everyone is built for a New York. Not everyone is built for a Philly. But the guys that are built for it and just get beat down constantly from the booing and all the stuff like that, that's coming from a portion of the fan base that doesn't speak for everyone.
Correct.
It's the same thing with managers. At first, this is the way it always goes. And I've seen this with plenty of Mets managers, Jets coaches, whatever it is, right? It always starts with the fan that overreacts.
Yeah.
Everything. Absolutely everything. For example, the Mets. You see that with that Frank the Tank guy.
Oh, yeah.
I just find
hilarious.
I find him annoying. I blocked him on Twitter. Because it's the worst type of Mets fans. The Met fan that reacts to every little thing and doesn't realize there's over 160 games in a season. Doesn't realize that there's constantly everything going on.
Right.
That a season can go from good to bad to good again.
It's the biggest roller coaster in all sports. I say it 1,000 times, a year.
But it always starts with the one overreactionary fan. And then if they end up being right and the rest of the fan base is like, okay, this isn't working, they feel validated. And then they go after the next guy and the next guy and the next guy.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
Right.
And there's no real way to solve that. There's no real way to solve that issue.
You're always going to have those people.
But that's the reality. We've seen that with Philly too. It starts with the small portion of the fan base. And once the rest of the fan base that actually watches the games and actually understands what's going on realize that's the right move, that small portion feels validated.
Right. And I'm not going to get to people doing their Twitter and tweeting out bad things or or attacking a player or anything like that. I just want to talk in general. How the fan base reacts, more like how the media reacts to games.
Yes.
Right? The
yes,
media
absolutely.
is a real big driver in the after the games interviews and stuff. When you have an emotional player who maybe just lost a game for his team or made the bad play in the game, right? And you ask him that question right afterwards, you're never going to get a good result from that.
Ever.
You're
Ever.
never going to get a good result. We saw that happen with Alex Boehm last year.
Yes.
Right? That was the big story. Alex Boehm, we all know what he said. And then after the game, apparently he got a little pep talk from Nick Castellanos and from Bryce and everything, who kind of coached him through how to handle the media. And he did a great job. And the fans then respected that. But that could have went south real fast.
And it has gone south.
For the guy who everyone hates to talk about in Philadelphia, but Ben Simmons.
Right.
Right. We've seen it with Ben Simmons, and now we're starting to see it a little bit with Joel Embiid and James Harden. Right. We're going to start seeing it a little bit with Claude Giroux. We saw it a little bit, how he can never win the big game, how he can never get over the hump. So, yeah, it to me, it starts with the media after game interviews, and then that's when the fans jump all over that.
I mean, there's so much to go in with the media, because it's like having some experience with that. It's how you say and how you frame something has such a big impact on how the rest of the fan base looks at it.
Correct.
Because if you frame it in a way where you're absolutely going after a guy, you're trying to flame him, you're trying to just put the fire.
You're trying to get the reaction.
If you're trying to get that reaction, that can have the result of a fan base turning on a player like that.
Correct.
Immediately. Immediately.
Yep.
So you're 1,000% right. It's the fans, but it's also how that player is perceived.
Yep.
What aspects of that guy are being focused on that really has the biggest impact on
how the fans view him.
How he's viewed in that city.
Yep.
1,000%.
Yeah.
We got Don saying, how about Colorado fan base? They got the Avalanche and Nuggets. They're feeling pretty good.
Yeah,
they also
good.
have the Rockies and the Denver Broncos, so it cancels out.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's 50-50 there. Rob says got to be New York. They have more teams, and the Sixers and Flyers are embarrassments. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
We got Don saying Miami fans don't even care about sports, but they got the Heat, Panthers, Miami Hurricanes. Went to the NCAA championship. They also have FAU.
Yeah.
So
and that's what makes me mad as a fan, right? Is the teams that the fan base doesn't care. Right? They don't care about the teams. They don't sell out. They don't even sell out for playoff games. Right? That fan base doesn't care, yet they always win. It drives me nuts. And we can never get a winning team in Philadelphia. Ever. Drives me nuts.
It's very interesting. But I feel like we alluded to it a little bit. But the Boston side of things, right?
Yeah.
The funniest thing I always say is when a Boston fan complains about anything.
Stop it. I don't want to ever hear from you again. Like, you have 20 more years before you could ever cry because of the New England Patriots. That's it for me. I'm not even going to speak to any other sport. The New England Patriots is arguably the best dynasty of all time.
Yeah,
of all time.
1,000%.
The only other one I think can argue that
Jordan.
Jordan had his time off. I mean, he missed that 1 year in the middle. UCLA.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the only other dynasty I think could compare to the Patriots. So Boston, in my opinion, has no right to cry or complain. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about the damn Boston Red Sox curse. I don't want to hear about any of that stuff. You have been a winning franchise for a long, long time in a winning city.
And it's has the possibility to continue again because the Miami Heat jump out to a 3-0 series lead. And on one of the most improbable endings, where Jimmy Butler gets fouled on a 3-point shot, hits all 3 free throws.
Yep.
Derek White hits a buzzer beater by like a 0.2 of a second.
Correct. It was a tenth of a second. Yeah,
to win the game and force a Game 7. The Celtics have a shot to do something. Once again, to the point, Boston fans shouldn't complain.
No.
And when I say complain the same sense as Philly and New York. They have a shot to go to the NBA Finals after being down 3-0, being the first team in history potentially.
Yep.
Over 100 series like this. The first team in history to ever come back.
And you know what? I haven't looked at the line yet, but I bet you they're a pretty big favorite.
Me and my one friend were looking at this last night. Boston is over a -300 favorite.
Yeah, I bet you they might be double-digit favorites in this game at 7.
Can you blame it?
No, I'm betting on it. I'm taking Boston.
I wouldn't say double digits, but Boston's a comfortable favorite.
The double digits, right, sir? Yep. 8 points. Okay. Yeah, I think Boston ultimately they're a better team. Yeah. Right? We all know that. But coming back from 3-0, never been done before.
Never.
In the history of the NBA, that's never been done before. It's very unlikely in the history of all sports. It doesn't really happen, especially in the Eastern Conference championships, right? You might see it in the first round where you're seeing a 1 versus 8 or a 2-7 or something like that, 4-5, but you'll never see it in the Eastern Conference championships usually, where you're supposed to have the 2 best teams.
And the whole series for me, it's just been so interesting because Miami started off so great. But then Boston finally started hitting shots and Miami started missing a little bit. And Miami wasn't as crisp. And Miami was playing the same type of defense. And they finally found their shot again. They finally found it. But now they're going toe-to-toe with the Boston team that hit their stride.
Yeah.
And, honestly, the game could have been over if Duncan Robinson hits one of the 2 open threes.
Yep.
Obviously, the game could have been over if they get the clock right, where Jimmy Butler didn't even shoot before 2.9 seconds.
Correct.
It'd be you could argue different things, but at the end of the day, Miami had 3 opportunities to close it out.
Yep.
And they didn't close it out once. And now you're in the spot. Your back's against the wall. I made this joke the other day. I think Boston just has been messing around to be like, how can we put ourselves in the most disadvantageous situation possible and then still win?
Yeah, I guess going into it, you Boston, they're the better team, right? They knew they were the better team.
They're just underachieving to the highest extent possible, which is insane.
Yeah.
The highest extent possible.
And now, listen, they're playing on all levels right now. They're clicking. They're moving. And if they win this Game 7, they got to be a favorite to win it all.
I disagree.
I know Denver's good. I know Denver's playing good. But
here's my thing. The NBA Finals are different in the sense of there is a set start date that doesn't shift.
Correct.
It doesn't shift like the second round and the Eastern Conference Finals. There's a set start date. Denver has rested for basically a week and a half. It's just like, from what I've seen with Denver, who hasn't struggled with any team in the West, and now you may argue that's because the West is a weaker conference.
It is.
And I'll give that to you.
Yeah.
I'm taking the team that is more rested, didn't have to come back potentially from a 3-0 deficit or have the pressure of fending off history happening against them in the Miami Heat's case.
Right.
Denver is also the deepest team, I think, left in the playoffs.
Boston's pretty good depth-wise.
Where I also like Denver Stars and the way they've been playing better than Boston's or Miami's.
They've been a lot more consistent.
And that's what it comes down to for me.
Yep.
The consistency aspect. Denver has been the same team the entire playoffs.
Right.
They've done everything right the entire playoffs. They have withstand the biggest punches from Phoenix.
Yeah.
Who had Devin Booker and Kevin Durant scoring basically 90 combined points.
Yep.
They've withstand the best punches from arguably the greatest player of all time in LeBron James and Anthony Davis in that Lakers team.
Who I picked to win that series.
I picked them to win that series as well.
Yep.
They withstand all of that.
Yep.
And they're well rested.
And they have home court advantage, I believe.
Yes.
All right.
But giving Jokic that rest, giving Jamal Murray that rest, which I think is even more important.
I think Murray's
giving
more,
Michael Porter Jr. that rest.
Right.
That's insanely important. you're having a fully rested Nuggets team.
Yeah. I agree with you. I just look at it, Boston doesn't – there's nobody on Boston where I'm like, yeah, minutes are going to be a problem, right? Jason Tatum is in prime shape. Jalen Brown's in prime shape. Marcus Smart's in prime shape. There's nobody on that team that I am worried about a minutes restriction or them fizzling out towards the end. I mean, we saw it right here, right? Down 3-0. You got to play your big boys as many minutes as you can, and they have, right? And they're pulling it out. So I'm not too worried about Boston on short rest or no rest going into the series, the finals. I do think it's more, it's an advantage for Denver to have that, like you said, Murray, who is coming back from major injuries, Porter, who's coming back from major injuries, right? To get them a little bit of rest might be good, but you can say they've had a long rest now, right? So is rust an issue?
That's a good point.
Rust could be an issue
because that's happened. We've seen that where everyone's like, "Oh, the rest is important." We've seen that in the NFL.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's too much rest when you're losing your mojo, not in that flow state.
Correct.
That's a very good point.
Right.
Thank the refs for that added time on the clock from Scott. But Miami didn't get that hometown cooking.
Correct.
Which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Pat Riley probably fired that clock operator.
It literally was what 0.1, 0.2.
There was 3 seconds left on the clock. It probably should have been like 2, if that.
Right, that's what I mean. And they got the shot off at 0.2 or something,
and that changed the entire game.
Yep.
That changed the entire game.
Yep.
People seeing Jokic have playoff success now, they think Joel don't deserve the MVP now. Now that's a conversation.
Yeah,
that's a conversation
because it's one that I kind of listen. I think Joel deserves the MVP. He had the best regular season, but I just watched Joker play right now, and he's the best player in the world.
Let's put it like this, and I think it's close. I'm not saying like one blows other out of the water. If the Denver Nuggets didn't have Nikola Jokic and the Sixers didn't have Joel Embiid, who's in the worst spot? I'd say the Denver Nuggets.
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Look at how the Nuggets offense operates because of how good Jokic is. And it's not just the scoring. He's a
0.5.
He passes like a guard and like a top level guard.
Yes.
Not just like, no, he's throwing like passes where he's putting it in the perfect spot, the perfect placement at the perfect time.
No look passes.
Incredible.
Yeah. He's the best passing big man that there ever was.
And the biggest knock on Jokic has been his defense. Guess what? If you have other fine defenders around him, he's still over 7 foot. It doesn't matter.
And the guy, I think, for the Phoenix series was averaging like 20 rebounds a game. So I don't want to hear this. He doesn't play defense stuff. When you get 20 rebounds a game, you're down there mixing it up. You're playing some defense at some point.
No, 100%. And this is a conversation I've actually had with some of my friends where it's like, should Jokic have won the MVP? And it's so hard because it was such a tight race the entire year.
Right.
It was between Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis.
Yep.
And I think all 3 players arguably deserved the award. The problem with the NBA, though, and this happened, and we're going to flash back a little bit.
All right.
This happened when LeBron was in his prime.
Correct.
The NBA has such an issue of not actually giving the award
to the player
the best player that year.
Yep.
Ironically enough, Joel has had multiple seasons better than Jokic.
Yep.
And those are the seasons he didn't get the award. This is probably one of the years I would have argued Jokic probably deserved it over Embiid.
Right.
But it gets to a point where, Embiid, it's tight neck and neck. Yeah, let's just give it to Embiid because he doesn't have that MVP.
So Joker had it twice in a row. They're not going to give it to him 3 times in a row. Yep. You know what I mean? There's all those arguments that could be made.
The Derrick Rose MVP season. Derrick Rose had an incredible season.
Right.
LeBron should have won the MVP that year.
Correct.
1,000%.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, LeBron probably could have won it every single year for 12 years in a row.
Probably like 15.
Yeah, he probably should have won it every single year. But if you're looking at a marketing aspect of it from the NBA,
exactly,
it's not good business.
No, it's not good business. And It sucks that that's what it probably comes down to.
Right.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that aggravates me about awards, all NBA teams,
Right.
defensive play. There's still the narrative aspect of it. There's always the narrative aspect of it.
Always. And it's always going to be pushed, like I said, by the media that gets it out to the masses, and then the people start believing it or hearing it or at least entertaining those processes and thoughts. Right. And that's how it starts. If it was as simple as who's the best player, it'd be cut and dry. Joker.
Yeah.
It's Joker.
Yeah. 1,000%. And the worst part is nobody can disagree with each other civilly. It's always, you can't say Embiid is better without disparaging Jokic and Giannis.
Right.
And it shouldn't be that way.
Correct.
You can't support Nikola Jokic without disparaging Joel Embiid and Giannis and the rest of the players.
Tatum and stuff, yeah.
It shouldn't be that way.
No.
It's like you got to appreciate what each guy brings to the table and say, look, Jokic may not have the defensive prowess that Joel Embiid does,
100%.
but he brings more in the passing game and probably brings a little bit more in terms of consistent shooting.
100%. And he brings a little bit more of being on the floor.
Right.
Joel's always
Jokic
had
doesn't
that
really
injury.
miss games.
Never misses games.
It's that balancing act. You could argue it's like with Giannis. Giannis is a defensive presence, but he doesn't have the jump shot of Jokic or Embiid. There's different give and takes of the different players in the MVP race,
right?
But you don't have to disparage and be like, Joel Embiid's a free throw merchant.
Let me ask you a question. If you had a vote, what are your criterias that you're weighing between Joker and Joel, and who would you side with?
So I'm looking at, and obviously there has to be multiple criteria because it's not going to match up for every player. How does the team look with the guy on and off the court?
Okay.
You know, the wins added. I'm not sure what basketball's war
status, right.
But whatever the equivalent of like a wins above replacement is.
Okay.
I'm looking at defensive presence, offensive presence, and I'm really looking at, and I know this is like sacrilegious, but I'm actually looking at the games. I'm actually looking at, what is each player doing on the court
for their team.
What is each player doing? Because a lot of voters don't do that.
Correct.
A lot of players are just like, I'm picking.
You can't. Yeah.
A lot of voters pick the guy off narratives.
Right.
Like you said, the media creates the narrative, and the MVP's picked off that narrative.
Correct. Is there any factor for you of, hey, this guy has won it 2 years in a row, so I'm not going to give it to him 3 years? Or that's not a factor at all for you.
You have to look at it in a vacuum. I feel like baseball, football, basketball, you got to look at it in that season.
Okay.
Who's the MVP that season? Not who was the MVP 2 years ago, and now we're basing it off who's going to win MVP now because that guy won this year. And
right.
I don't care.
Right. Okay.
I don't care about that. If Jokic had the better year, Jokic had the better year. If Embiid had the better year, Embiid had the better year. That's just how I see it.
It's funny because if I had a vote, I look at things a little bit differently. That would factor in.
It would factor.
That would factor in.
Are you bringing the legacy conversation?
The legacy conversation to the table. Plus, I'm bringing in what's better for the sport. Right.
Okay.
As a voter, I'm always trying to do what's better for the sport. Maybe that's fair or not fair. I hear you. I get it.
I just hate looking at it that way because I'm just, and I could be wrong for this, obviously, but I just prefer looking at it in the sense of strictly performance-based award, not narrative-based award.
Let me give you a little comparison. All right, how do you feel about the steroid era for baseball? Should Barry Bonds, should Mark McGwire, should these guys be in the Hall of Fame? Roger Clemens and so forth.
Yes, 1,000%.
All right.
1,000%.
So you don't see. I say no.
Okay.
Because I do put in the legacy factor of it a little bit more. I do put in the history of the game a little bit more, and I respect the records a little bit more.
Okay. I've seen this take, and this is something I fully agreed with.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell the story of baseball? And that is what the Hall of Fame is.
Right.
Can you tell the story of baseball without Barry Bonds?
No. But
Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame.
But how do you tell the story? Do you put an asterisk next to that story?
What you do is you have all his records in place. You have everything in there.
Right.
But on his plaque, you say Bonds was a steroid user. But you also mention pre-steroids, Barry Bonds was still a Hall of Fame player.
I agree 100%. He was never what he ended up being, but he probably would have ended up being a Hall of Famer
Roger
anyway.
Clemens was still a Hall of Fame pitcher pre-steroids.
Yeah.
I just think that, and this is the other context of it that no one, at least a lot of people that cover baseball, don't want to discuss.
Right.
Or a lot of old age people that don't want to cover, because new age doesn't really care as
Correct.
much.
Yeah.
Guess what? Baseball did not care about steroids.
No, they kind of encouraged it. Honestly.
That's the thing. The home run race between McGwire and Sosa,
that saved baseball.
It saved baseball. That literally pushed baseball beyond the doubt.
Yeah.
Baseball did not start testing for steroids until like 2002, 2003.
Correct.
Now, I was like 2 or 3 at that point.
Right.
I don't remember this, but looking back and reading about this, baseball only cracked down on steroids because they had to.
I think it was because of the Hall of Fame voting.
No.
Right?
It was only cracked down because they were getting the outside pressure to crack down.
100%, yeah. If the federal court was coming down
if the feds,
right.
Ironically, if the feds don't come after Major League Baseball,
right.
steroids probably go until like 08.
Yep. Yeah, you're probably right.
Unchecked.
Yep.
Who knows what the record books look like at that point? But Bonds, we talk about legacy. He was looking out for his own legacy.
Yeah.
And he's seeing no one's testing.
Right.
No one's caring. I'm making this choice myself.
Just like anyone else in the world would do too.
and what did he do for himself? Look, he may not have the Hall of Fame, but he's widely regarded as one of the best, if not the best hitter of all time.
The best player to ever play a game. In my opinion, he's the best player to ever play.
As someone that grew up playing baseball all the time, Barry Bonds is someone I revered.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people didn't try that batting stance in the backyard?
Everybody did. Have the little wave. I still remember it.
Let's think about the batting stances, right?
Yep.
That were the most imitated. Griffey might be the only outlier.
Correct.
And Griffey was bar none, my favorite player growing up.
Yep.
Sammy Sosa, steroids.
Yeah.
Gary Sheffield,
yeah.
steroids.
Yeah.
Mark McGwire, steroids.
Yeah.
We can keep going. David Ortiz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably steroids.
Right.
Although that wasn't proven. A-Rod, steroids.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's millions of people that probably did it in that era. I would say probably 75%, if not more, players did it in that era.
And how many people didn't get caught?
Oh, probably 80, 90% of them. Yeah.
So that's what it comes down to, where I don't, and this ties back to MVP thing and the Hall of Fame. I don't care about narratives.
Okay.
It's numbers and obviously steroids, cheating, that's a different aspect, but you also have to look at the context of why it was happening, how it was happening, and when it was happening.
I get that. And listen, anyone who says that they wouldn't do what Barry Bonds did, you're crazy, right? Someone's going to throw $200 million in front of your lap. Everyone and their mother is going to say, shoot me up.
Yeah.
Right? Give me that steroid, make me that better player. And let's not kid ourselves. It made them a better player. We talked about Barry Bonds probably was going to be a Hall of Famer. Roger Clemens probably was going to be a Hall of Famer.
Longevity.
Right?
It's not.
But you got guys who weren't. Sammy Sosa, who is on the borderline of could be a if he didn't take steroids, he's never a Hall of Famer. Mark McGwire, he's never a Hall of Famer. Right?
Right.
So there are guys who the steroids really did put into that conversation that didn't belong in that conversation.
Right.
That's why I kind of don't look at the steroid era as they should hold a prominent spot in baseball history like the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
That's my point.
And that's fair.
Right.
That's 100% fair. But it's always like the context. It's always the context because, like, that was a part of baseball history.
It is.
And you look at some of the guys in the Hall of Fame. They're in the Hall of Fame because their numbers were great for that time period. You look at actually what they did, Like, for example, a guy like Harold Baines, you could argue, shouldn't even be in the Hall of Fame.
No, he's probably the one who should not be in, yeah.
You look at, and transition, you look at the NFL. There's guys, you look at their numbers, they shouldn't be Hall of Famers, but they were amazing, almost improbable numbers for that era.
Right.
Look at the NBA. Guys shouldn't be in there. They're amazing numbers and amazing performers for that era.
That's true.
You also get into the discussion. Or the Hall of Fame. Are we talking about peak or are we talking about longevity?
Right.
Because there is an argument that Hall of Fame should be worthy for both.
Yeah.
A guy that had one of the greatest stretches of all time for 8 years, but then kind of trailed off.
Right.
Where does that stack up, right?
Well, yeah, you have that debate right now with
Yeah.
the greatest of all time in LeBron and Jordan, right?
Yes.
LeBron has the resume that he should be the all-time leader, but he also has the longevity that Jordan didn't have. If Jordan played as many years as LeBron, are we even having this conversation?
No, because it's LeBron by a mile.
It's LeBron by a mile.
It's LeBron by a mile.
Right.
Guess what? I don't know. Does anyone talk about the Wizards Michael Jordan years?
No, I was just about to say, the Hornets years or whatever.
I'm not counting Hornets because he didn't play for the Hornets.
Okay, yeah,
because that's more ownership.
Yep.
But yeah, Jordan was still good with the Wizards. He didn't win anything.
No, he was. I don't even think he averaged over 20 points, did he?
No, but he didn't win anything.
No, nothing. Yeah.
Guess what? Michael Jordan doesn't take that mid-retirement. Guess what? He probably isn't going on a 8-year, 9-year title run.
You don't think so?
I personally think that era was starting to become more, how do I put it, more competitive.
I agree.
Now, he would have had a great shot.
Do you think Houston would have beat Michael Jordan in the finals that year that he took off for baseball?
I think they would have had a shot.
You think they would have?
Because eventually, the teams didn't have the same level of film. Teams didn't have like the same level of preparation.
Right.
But eventually, someone's going to figure something out.
True.
And Jordan's incredible. Jordan's amazing.
Yeah.
The teams have figured Kobe out. Teams have figured LeBron out. Dirk. Every team has come up. Every great has been stopped once or twice.
True.
Jordan, before he made it to the finals, was getting knocked out in the first or second round.
Yeah.
Yes, he never lost in the finals, but he also didn't make the finals in a decent amount of years.
LeBron has done something that no other player will ever do. I mean, he took his team to the finals how many years in a row?
He took 3 different teams to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, that's just – I don't know. I love that debate. I think it's more on the longevity aspect of it. You give it to LeBron, but if you want to give it to the impact – for the years that they played, it's Jordan.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Jordan did something I will never say. Won 3, came back, and won 3 again.
And to say if he didn't leave to go play baseball, he probably could have won 7 in a row.
There was a very good shot. I'm not saying, there's no shot Jordan would have won 7. Like,
right.
He definitely could have.
Right.
1,000%. But there's also the aspect of injuries. Does something happen?
Yeah.
Does Scotty get fed up earlier than when he did?
That's true.
Does Phil Jackson and the owner have beef before?
Yeah.
It's that theory. You throw the stone pebble in the lake and you watch the ripples.
Yep.
You can't fully say or predict what would have happened.
True.
But look at the teams, right? Houston was on the upswing. Utah was on the upswing.
Yeah.
Orlando, the
Shaq Penny era.
If Shaq and Penny somehow get over the hump that year.
Yep.
Because maybe instead of facing one team, they face the Bulls. They match up better with
Does Shaq never leave Orlando? Does that dynasty stay? Yeah.
The Knicks. Does that change the Knicks?
Yeah, they
90s
were one.
era.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
There's different things because you could argue if an Eastern
Pacers.
If an Eastern Conference team is more battle tested against the Bulls and they overcome the Bulls, maybe they put more confidence. And Houston doesn't win that championship with Elijah.
Right.
There's a lot of nuance that goes into it. But at the end of the day, it's Jordan 1, LeBron 2. For me, it's LeBron 1, Jordan 2. It's simple as that. It's how do you view it? How do you view the legacy conversation?
Correct. Yeah, and I think you're going to get more. The younger generation like you is going to be LeBron based.
Oh yeah.
The older generation
100%.
like me is going to be more Jordan based.
Because it's who we watch.
It's who we grew up loving.
And you could argue the generation before you is Kareem.
Kareem, yeah, 100%. A lot of people say Kareem, yeah, yep.
And that's the thing. The worst kept secret of the worst kept secret of talking about this. It's very era dependent.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, put Jordan in the modern era. Well, you can't do that unless you have a time machine, and no one has a time machine.
Right.
So
right. There's really no need to speak
point.
of that. Yeah.
Oh, you put Kareem in the modern era. Kareem and Jordan. Guess what? You can't really do that.
Right.
You can't see prime LeBron versus prime Jordan versus prime Kareem, except you're playing NBA 2K.
Correct.
And NBA 2K is, guess what? A video game. It's a simulation. It's not real life.
Right.
That you're not going to have that.
I would love to see. I would love to see the comments and who's kind of agreeing or disagreeing to all this.
We got let me see from where we left off. That's where we left off. Jokic is a bigger Magic Johnson. That's a good
comparison.
Very interesting comparison.
Yeah.
Steve Nash didn't deserve MVP over Shaq.
There's another one. You're 100% correct. Yep.
We got Steve Nash 2 MVPs. Shaq, Kobe.
Correct. They should, but probably not won any of them. Yeah.
100%. Steve Nash won the MVP average. Yep. 15 and 11.
Yeah.
It goes back to that point. It's so narrative driven. That was when Kobe had one of his best years of his career.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what the narrative is, and I guess I'm one of the persons that falls into it because I do look at the history of the game and the history of the voting and all that stuff, and that would play a factor into me. And it's funny because I don't even know why that is. I just feel like it does for whatever reason. And it's probably not fair. It's probably not fair to the players, to the league. But I guess as just a person who looks at the history of everything, it plays a factor to me.
100%. So I think this is a good time to transition to some baseball talk because guess what?
We got it coming up.
At the end of the day, this Philly New York conversation, who has it worse? Guess what? Both baseball teams currently have it worse.
Yes, we do.
Now, the Phillies are having a very interesting series, as the Mets had some very interesting series last week. Let's just face it, these two teams aren't that good right now.
It's not even that they're not that good. It's that I hate this word, but it's that expectations, right?
Yep.
We were supposed to be there. And we're not there. Not only are we not there, to me as a Phillies fan, it's hard to see if we're going to get there.
The thing with that, I can't make that claim one way or the other. Simply because the NL has been brutal.
It has.
Brutal this year. You know, I'll pull up the standings for this right now.
Yeah, definitely the NL's been the weaker of the divisions or conferences or whatever you want to call them, leagues. But is that more a detriment to the Mets and the Phillies, right? To where the league's not as good, you should be better then,
right?
Right, and we're not.
So looking at the NL East, the Braves are 31-21. Guess what? The Braves have been not great recently.
Right.
Their bullpen is struggling. Their pitching is struggling. They were 5-5 in their last 10.
Yeah.
Your standings in the NL East then go. The Mets and Marlins are tied for second place at 27 and 26.
It's crazy.
The fact that the Mets have had the year that they've had and they're only 4.5 out.
Yeah,
is absurd. The fact the Marlins are even in second place conversation.
Who thought that?
Ridiculous.
That's crazy.
The Phillies are 25 and 27.
Yeah.
And the Nationals are 23 and 29.
Yeah.
So the Nationals are not even double-digit games out of first place.
No.
And the Nationals have been terrible.
Atrocious.
This year.
Yeah.
And yet the Mets and Phillies have struggled with them at times. I don't know how many times the Phillies have played Washington just yet.
I think it's been 2 series, yeah.
But it's not like they've dominated them.
No, we haven't dominated anyone.
It's been close.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the same story that we get year after year, right? It's this lineup is awesome. 1 through 9, we have all the pieces in order. We go righty lefty the whole way through the lineup, right?
Yep.
With power throughout. We add probably a top 5 player in baseball, and Trey Turner, which is going to turn the top of our lineup around, get our batting average up. And it's not happened.
Yep.
Right? And then it's our starting pitchers. We go out and Nola and Wheeler are supposed to be our aces. That hasn't really materialized. We're hoping Andrew Painter is going to be the next coming. That hasn't materialized.
Exactly.
You go out and you sign Soto, and you go out and you get Kimbrel, and Sir Anthony has another year of being healthy, and here you go.
Issues.
We go get Matthew Straub, and we still can't close out games. Like I don't know I really don't know what to say to it.
And it continues because the NL Central, the first place team is 27-25. The Brewers, the Pirates are a half game out at 26-25. The Cardinals, Reds, and Cubs are 24-30, 23-29, and 22-29. No team is more than 5 games out.
And that's the Cardinals being probably the hottest team the hottest team in baseball right now.
Yes.
Right? What's their last 10?
6-4.
Okay, so maybe they cool off a little bit, but they went on a real hot streak to get that record.
And
they were like 10-22,
and they're still 6 games under 500.
Correct. Yeah.
And then the NL West, Dodgers has the best record in the NL at 32-21. Then you have the Diamondbacks, who are playing great baseball.
Yeah, they came out of nowhere.
Who are 2.5 out. The Giants are 27-25. Then you have the Padres and Rockies. The Padres are
supposed to be the best team in baseball, maybe.
They're a game and a half better than the Rockies. So it goes to the point of the NL has not been good.
Right.
And as bad and inconsistent and the plethora of issues that the Mets and Phillies have had between hitting inconsistencies and starting pitcher woes and relief pitching woes, they are still both in the contention for the division, and they're in contention for the wild card.
Well, the best record too in the East, right? You're not. I mean, what are you 12 games out of that, which is not that much considering we're only in May.
The Mets are tied for the third wild card with, this is a fun group of teams, the Pirates and the Marlins.
Wow.
Are only a half game behind the Giants and are only 2.5 behind the Diamondbacks. The Phillies are 1.5 out. The Padres are, at the record they have, are 2.5 out of the wild card.
Right.
The Cardinals and Reds and Nationals are 3.5 games out of the wild card. The worst team, the Rockies and the Cubs are the worst 2 teams in the NL. How many games do you think they were out from the wild card?
Less?
4.
No way. So every single team in the NL has a chance to playoffs still.
Yep.
Are you holding the notion it's still early?
It's June next week.
I'm with you. I don't think it's early anymore.
It's not early.
This is mid-season baseball.
We are at it is Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
We are, as we said, we are here on the Ocean City Boardwalk. It is Memorial Day weekend, and we just read off the National League standings, and every single team has a shot to make the playoffs.
Every single team can viably go into the trading market and say,
we can add a piece.
We're adding, right? There's nobody selling right now.
Nobody is double-digit games out.
Nobody's selling.
Let's compare it to the AL.
Yep.
Right? Let's compare it to the AL. Athletics are 21 games out of a wild card spot.
Nuts. They're done already, right? They're selling every piece that they have right now.
They have 10 wins on the year.
Yeah.
Which is on pace to be one of the worst teams of all time.
Yeah.
But still, the Royals are 15 out.
Yeah.
The White Sox are 9 out. The Guardians are 7.5 out. The Tigers are 5 out. And the Tigers are 24-26.
Right.
That would be near the top
contending
in the NL.
Yeah.
So if that hasn't told you how bad the overall, like, I guess I'd say conference of baseball has been.
Right.
I don't know, like, what else is there to say?
And the fun, you said a team to me, and I'm going to throw a bet on them probably today. I love the Indians to make a big comeback, right?
Guardians,
jeez. The Guardians to make a big comeback. We have Tristan McKenzie. Their ace is coming back soon next week.
Yeah, it's been their lineup.
Right?
Their lineup has been Jose Ramirez, and everyone else has been terrible.
Correct.
You get any production out of the rest of that lineup,
and you get your horse back.
They're going on a run.
They could go on a run, yeah.
But that brings us to, the upcoming week where the Mets and the Phillies play each other.
Let's go. Fun week.
And then the Mets go play Toronto after that.
Okay.
The way the season's been going, the Mets are probably going to win the Philly series, lose Toronto series because
sounds about right.
I can't. You can't guess. But in all seriousness, my prediction for this upcoming week for this Mets Philly series is anything you expect to happen, anything you think will happen, the opposite's going to happen. Basically,
seems like it.
These are two teams that have not been consistent.
Nope.
That have beat some of the best teams in the league and also some of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
And have just not been consistent. Justin Verlander got shelled for basically 6 runs last night. The Mets somehow came back and tied it, but still lost the game because their bullpen blew it.
Yeah.
They lost to teams and lost series to the Rockies early in the year, the Reds, and the Nationals. They then proceeded to beat the Rays in a series and sweep the Guardians.
Right.
If you really think you know what's going to happen between that type of Mets team and a Phillies team that has struggled with teams like the Mets have and now have the potential to take 3 or 4 from Atlanta, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about.
And I don't think I've ever seen this. I don't know if you have in baseball, but I might be wrong in this. If anyone can chime in and help me out on this, but I think it was against the Rockies, the series that we had in Colorado, where we lost game 1 by double-digit runs. We won game 2 by double-digit runs. We lost game 3 by double-digit runs. I don't ever remember that happening. Like that is your prototypical inconsistency right there of just being able to hit balls out one game
and then not being able to do it the next.
The game before and the game after, you can't hit anything.
Yeah, so
that's just crazy to me.
Looking at the probable pitchers, if I can pull that up for this upcoming series.
Yeah.
Wow, we are. Hold on, it's taking a little bit to get there. Why is it not coming up?
Yeah, you bad service here.
The schedule is going backwards. But first game, it's Kodai Senga, who's been a very nice pitcher.
Yeah, he's been very surprised.
Versus Ranger Suarez.
Okay.
That's Tuesday at 7:10.
And Ranger has been very disappointing after coming back off the DL.
Wednesday is Aaron Nola versus Carlos Carrasco.
And Aaron Nola's been getting booed out the building for us.
And then game 3, which might be the best pitching matchup of them all, ironically, Taijuan Walker versus Max Scherzer. Taijuan Walker's homecoming to New York.
And he's been our most consistent pitcher.
Like I said, looking at these matchups, I don't know what to expect because Scherzer's been great at times and has been great at times. The same thing with Verlander. The consistency has been there, but he's been good the past few starts.
Right.
Ranger Suarez has a 9.82
ERA.
Horrible. As a lefty, wouldn't surprise me if he threw six shutout against the Mets. Nola has the name value. Carrasco's had the bad year. Carrasco had a great start his last time out.
Correct.
Nola's been getting shelled.
Yeah.
Then Taijuan Walker playing in Citi Field confines, he might actually have a good game now. Because
he's not on the Mets.
Because he struggles at hitters' ballparks.
Yeah.
Citi Field is not a hitter's ballpark. So it's like the balancing act of what do you expect and what's been the result, and can you expect the unexpected? You go to the lineup part.
It's not even close lineup-wise. In my opinion, Phillies blow the Mets lineup out. Right?
I wouldn't say blow it out, but you
1
could
through 9, I think we're way better.
But once again, I don't think it's blow out of the water, but certain aspects blow it out of the water.
Okay.
And in terms of numbers, it might not be close.
Right.
So you have, for example, with the Mets, Brandon Nimmo's been incredible.
Yeah, he's been great.
You could argue he should get MVP votes if he keeps this up this
Correct.
year. Not win the award, because Ronald Acuna has been probably the best player in baseball.
Right.
But get votes.
Yep.
Francisco Alvarez, I think, has been a top 5 catcher in the NL.
He's been a nice surprise.
He's been incredible for the Mets. He has almost a 900 OPS now.
Yep.
Brett Beatty's been a great addition to the lineup. And you still have Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil.
Is Beatty getting full-time playing time now?
He's getting full playing time. Getting an off day here and there, which I still disagree with, but that's beside the point.
All right.
But on the flip side, Francisco Lindor has struggled.
Yeah.
He still has close to 40 RBIs, which is incredible, but he's hitting more in that 230 range. I feel like he'll increase that over the year, but he hasn't been upper echelon Francisco Lindor like he was last year.
Correct.
Starring Marte has struggled. And then this is the part where I agree with you, where I would lean Phillies a little bit more. The spots that Bryson Stott occupies,
Correct.
the spot that Brandon Marsh occupies, the spot that the back sort of guys on the Phillies occupy,
correct,
are better than
Alex Bohm has been
than your Mark Canhas, are better than your Tommy Phams, are better than your I think McNeil's been fine, but he hasn't been himself.
Right.
Are better than your Daniel Vogelbach, who it aggravates me every time he gets an at bat over Mark Vientos, who, oh my goodness, gets consistent at bats. 2 for 3
hits, yeah.
2 for 3. So it's very, very interesting. It's very, very interesting how that happens.
Okay. We actually have a guest that wants to come on, so I'm going to get up and let Aiden come on.
All right. No. So, apologize. He's going on right now.
Hi, I'm Aiden.
What's up, Aiden? How you doing?
Good.
So why don't you introduce yourself and who are your teams that you enjoy watching?
All right, I'm Aiden. I'm actually from Pennsylvania, so my favorite team is the Phillies. My favorite player is Bryce Harper. And, I mean, I also like the Guardians because my dad's from Cleveland, and I like the Mariners. I don't know. I mean, I like Ken Griffey and Rodriguez. So.
Awesome. So, you've watched the Phillies this year. They're your favorite team. Bryce Harper's been your favorite team. What's been your favorite thing to watch about them, and are you excited to keep watching them this year?
Yeah, I'm very excited to keep watching them. I was excited to hear that they beat the Braves yesterday. I didn't watch it because I was doing a lot of other stuff. But I'm also kind of disappointed that they made it all the way to the World Series and they're not doing that well this season.
So that kind of brings us to what we have our question of the day, where we've been asking and we've been talking about how Philadelphia or New York, who's really had it worse, who's had more like the disappointment. Has New York been more disappointing because they haven't made it, or has Philly been more disappointing because they've made it but they hadn't won it? If I were to ask you that question, do you think Philly sports have had it worse, or has New York sports had it worse?
I think New York probably, because the Phillies kind of got lucky when they got to the World Series, and New York beat them out in their division. So the Phillies are more of a postseason kind of team, and the Mets are more of a regular season kind of team, and they're not really doing that well. So I think the Mets are definitely getting a worse season.
Would you say that's the same for like sports like football or basketball?
No, probably not. Wait, what do you mean by that, though?
So, like, for example, like, would you say, like, Sixers fans have it worse than Knicks fans? Or Knicks fans have it worse than Sixers fans?
I think Knicks fans probably have it worse than Sixers fans. But it's really disappointing when your team makes it really far and then loses. It's almost more disappointing than if your team just doesn't make it. I don't remember. Did the Knicks make it into the postseason for basketball
this year?
Yeah.
Yes, they made it this year.
I'd say it's probably more disappointing for Philly in basketball because they went farther just to lose.
Awesome. And then the last thing I'll ask you, the Phillies play the Mets this week. So they play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you were to give a prediction on who's going to win those games and who's going to win the series, who would you say and why?
Mets, I mean, I think the Phillies could win, but I feel like right now, if things keep going how they are, I feel like the Mets are gonna win, but the Phillies might win like one game in the series because, I mean, last year Atlanta was first in their division, and the Phillies got Turner. I don't know if the Mets or Braves got anybody, but the Phillies beat the Braves, meaning they probably have a chance against the Mets, seeing that the Mets did not get in front of the Braves last year, and they're kind of in the same place they were last year. I feel like they have a chance, but I feel like the Mets will still win it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and it's been great talking to you, and I hope we can have you on again.
Thanks. Oh.
All right, so we got our next guest on. So, what's your name? Where are you from? And who are your favorite teams?
I'm Peter. I'm from like suburbs of Philly, like Lower Gwinnett-ish. And my favorite teams are all like 4 Philly sports teams: Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, Eagles.
Awesome. So, we've been asking questions today here on the show. It's our poll question of the day. Philadelphia fans have it tougher than New York fans. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
So, basically, the premise of the question is, do Philly fans have it worse because of how far their teams are making it, and then they're not winning it, or do New York fans have it worse because they're making it that far, or they're not making it that far, but they have the expectations that they're making it that far?
I think Philly teams have it worse, just because fans have it worse. Because championships hurt worse to lose than just regular. No, it doesn't matter about expectation. And the Philly teams have had that expectation too at some point. Like, Eagles have had that expectation sometime a little bit. Sixers did, and then they lost the second round. So championships hurt worse than just playoff losses, I think. I think that's why Philly fans definitely have it worse.
So you think like making it to that point
Yes.
and not winning is worse than not making it there at all?
Yes, and especially how the Philly teams have lost them. Like the Phillies were 2 wins away. And that game that they blew them out at Citizens Bank Park, they blew the Astros out 7-0 or whatever it was, and they lost that series, got no hit and all that, and they lost series 2 wins away, and then the Eagles up 10 at halftime. That hurt, like, because you have the fans thinking, we have 10 points at halftime against the Chiefs. Like, you think you have it, and then you don't, because 10 points, like, at halftime, you're like, oh, yeah, we got this, But, and then you lose that game, it sucks. And then also for the Sixers, it was like, you've been losing in the second round over and over and over again. To do it again against a rival hurts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ironically, this week we have Mets Phillies coming up. I mean, as you guys know, I'm a Mets fan. I got the hat on. I got the sweatshirt on right now.
Uh-huh.
Philly fan, obviously.
Yeah.
With that series coming up, what are you expecting to see? What do you want to see? And I guess overall, who do you think is going to win?
I hope and think the Phillies will win, just because the way they've been playing. Trey Turner's been getting a little hot as of late. Hopefully the pitching, Nola can step up if he pitches in the series. It's going to be a big series. Both teams aren't out of the division at all. The Phillies have been playing well against the Braves. Going up against the Mets, too big of a division series. You're not out of it. You're like 5 games back from the division. So you have to win these series if you're the Phillies. But if you're the Mets, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm of this thought process where I think the Phillies have been playing better than the Mets, but these two teams have been so weird during this year where I don't know what to expect. I truly don't know what to expect. And I think the Phillies could sweep. I think the Mets could sweep. I think either team could take 2 or 3. So I'm very interested to see that. And before you get off, do you have any parting words, anything like you want to say that you want to talk about in terms of Philly sports going forward, in terms of the poll question, anything?
Yeah, I'm just the one thing I would say is about the Flyers. They have no direction, and it makes me sad. It just makes me sad thinking about that team.
I'll ask you one quick question about that. Are you happy with who they've hired at, I guess it'd be president of like hockey operations?
I did like the Keith Jones hire because I feel like he'll care. That's the one thing the Flyers haven't had in a while is management or ownership that hasn't cared. Like no one's cared. They just want money and whatever, and they haven't cared. So I think he'll care. And Briere, I think he's not like a guy who's been only in NHL. He's had to work up to the NHL level in managing teams. So I think he'll be able to right the ship in a way. But the thing with them, they don't have a direction. Like the only valuable asset they have is their goalie. But if you say they trade away Hart for a bunch of picks and stuff, and they get to a good team, and then you're back like, oh, we don't have a goalie. So they have no direction. It's going to be hard to get them back into a winning shape. So that's the one thing with them.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for your time. I hope to have you on again soon.
Thanks.
What's wrong?
Oh, no. I was just muting the mic. That's all. We're back.
We're on. Yeah, that to me, and I don't want to interrupt and start something different topic, but that's the best part of doing this show.
Absolutely.
Is I love having these kids come on and getting the opportunity to get the platform. We have the TV here with us on it. They get to watch themselves on TV. They go home on their way home and they rewatch the show. They rewatch their segment. Yeah, I love it. I get so many messages afterwards with how much the kids love it. And, we're back in that season. Kids are starting to get off school, right? So we're going to get more and more every week as the show goes on.
And, as someone that really, didn't see a lot of, kids my age kind of doing that.
Yep.
Especially when I was growing up, seeing that ability and seeing that avenue for someone to come on and actually, express and have a platform to really discuss what they want to talk about.
Yep.
It's so important. It really is.
It really is, just for the aspect of, listen, we're all glued to our phones, right? And we're all that generation of Xbox and PlayStation and not really getting out and socialize. And this gives those kids that chance to get out here and talk one-on-one and debate and give their opinions and have thousands of people listening to them and watching them. Right, that they're not really going to get that opportunity anywhere else.
Absolutely. So, I guess that leaves us with free avenue to go. I wanted to ask you something.
Sure.
Did you see the rumor that the UFC is coming back to Atlantic City?
Correct. I did see that. Yeah. So I saw that. I saw the merger that they have with the WWE. That they're talking now about going public.
Interesting, really.
Which
Endeavor itself?
Endeavor itself is going to go public, which I think is going to be a good thing for the UFC and the WWE, who is already public. I think it's going to hold them a little bit more accountable.
Yep.
And make the titles worth a little bit more than what they are right now. I mean, let's face it, right? It's all about the big fight. Whether a title's on the line or not, it's all about the big fight feeling right now. I would like to see the titles hold a little bit more meaning. I would like to get rid of a lot of the intern titles. Right?
So the way that UFC's been operating.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I'm hoping when they go public and they have a board, the board holds them a little bit more accountable to the rankings and to the titles. Right, and I'm just hoping it gets a little bit of a better product out of it.
I'll go one step further.
Sure.
I hope the fighter pay increases.
That too.
I hope that guys actually get their worth, so we don't have a situation like Francis Ngannou leaving the UFC, going to boxing and PFL,
right?
Because the UFC isn't paying him what he's worth and what he absolutely is worth.
Right. Yeah.
You had your Francis Ngannou John Jones fight
set
up.
Yep.
Everyone's talking about
it. They both wanted to do it. Yeah.
And guess what? Because the UFC doesn't want to actually support a fighter.
Correct.
You now don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough because I know what the UFC is doing. They don't ever want to give up some of the gate. Right? And that's a hard mountain to do, right? I know they did it for McGregor, the one fight. But you don't really want to set that precedent. But if you don't give up some of the gate, how do you increase the pay? I don't know, right? So I think you do need to find a way to increase some of the pay for these guys. Do you go to a boxing model?
In what sense?
In the sense of they do get some of the pay-per-view revenue.
It'd be the right thing to do.
You think so?
I don't think the UFC does it.
Okay.
Because it just, for me, I've been a very hardcore UFC fan since the pandemic started.
Yep.
That's when I got my start. I'm not going to say, I've been watching my whole life. No, I've been watching for a good 3 or so years.
Okay, I've been watching ever since the Ultimate Fighter 1. That I've been a diehard for it that long.
So, for me, it's I just don't see Dana White. I don't see the UFC as it's currently.
Correct.
Obviously, changes if it goes public.
Correct.
I don't see them going more towards better fighter pay.
You don't have to, right? I mean, you bought the company for $2 million or something, and then ended up selling it for $6 billion, right? So why would you ever change? And I get them for saying that hey, this is the model that we built this on. We're going to stay on this model. But to your point, you're starting to lose some of your bigger name fighters, right? You're starting to see fighters come out and be a little bit more, hey, we're going to go to the big boxing match because we're going to get paid more.
Because when we get money, we're actually going to get paid.
You saw it with McGregor.
Right.
You see it with Ngannou. Diaz is now doing it, right?
What I think the question then becomes, what's your point of no return? What is your point of no return where the name leaves and everyone's like, the UFC needs to change now? It's like every sport has that breaking point. Every sport, we've seen it, where they don't want to change something, and the one thing that the sport can't afford happens, and they have to make that change.
I think I know what it is. And I don't know if I'm hoping this happens or just thinking this is what's going to force them to raise the pay, is if they do go public and they buy out Dana White and they finally have a new head of the UFC.
Do you think that could happen?
I think that will happen.
Really?
Yeah, I think that will happen. Dana White will never listen to a board.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
He has ran this himself. So if that does happen, well, like I said, it sounds like they're going that avenue. All right. So if it does happen, I think that's when you're going to see Dana White step down. Someone else step in who has that mindset of what can we do to keep our big name fighters happy.
Do you go the who was the fighter who was the wrestler that's in charge at WWE or was in charge?
Triple H.
Yeah, do they go the Triple H route? Get a former fighter in there.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. You have guys who really would be good at that, right? A Frankie Edgar, a Frank Mir,
Daniel Cormier.
A Daniel Cormier would be an amazing one.
Daniel Cormier would be perfect in that.
Dominic Cruz,
right? Absolutely.
All these types of guys who really have a good.
Who's the other commentator that they usually have doing now? I'm blanking on his name.
Oh my God, Felder.
Felder would be great.
Felder would be great at it. Yeah. So I mean, you do have guys in place that could step in, who would represent the fighters, but who also would be a
represent
company
the
man.
business interest.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're not getting extreme. You're not, raising fighter pay 500%.
Correct.
But you're making it fair.
Yep.
And I think that's what it comes down to for me. Love the UFC, love the product. I just want to see guys get paid what they're worth.
Yeah, I think you started with the gate, right? I think you start giving them a percentage of the gate, and then if that works and it gets a little bit better and everyone gets a little bit happier, then maybe you'll start seeing them go back to pay-per-view numbers and start giving pieces of pay-per-view, right? Because let's not kid ourselves. These guys do sell the fights, right? They do all the press conferences. They go and take time out of their scheduling to travel and do this stuff.
It does matter.
They need to be paid to that.
It does matter 100%. And I'm not discounting this. A guy's charisma, the character a guy is he playing the heel?
Right.
Is he like the guy that's getting like all the push and being raised up to be the next big thing?
Yeah.
All this still matters.
100%.
But it's a matter of getting that fair compensation. So we're not having the story of, I literally was down to my last dollar in the UFC, not trying to make it to the UFC. I'm down to my last dollar in the UFC.
And you see that a lot, right?
That shouldn't happen.
It should never be where the $50,000 fight of the night bonus makes or breaks a guy's year. That should never happen.
You don't see it in the NHL.
Nope.
You don't see it in the NBA, the MLB, the NFL. You don't see it in MLS.
Correct.
You should not have a professional sport where your professional athlete is struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah, especially at that high level. Like I said, they just, not just sold, but they sold for $6 billion, right? So you have the means to make it work. Yeah,
1,000%. You have the money.
I think it's going to be when Dana White steps down.
Because Dana will never.
He'll never change. He'll never change, right? And again, to the point, nor should he, maybe, right?
That's the discussion.
Nor should he, in my opinion, because he has built that from there. The problem I have with it as a fan is I have no desire to watch Conor versus Floyd. I have no desire to watch Nick Diaz versus
Jake
Paul.
Right.
Like I have no desire to watch this. I'm not going to pay to watch Francis Ngannou fight some schmo who's ranked 90th, in PLF.
Because you want to watch a boxer actually box. You don't.
Correct.
I don't like the. And I don't think Ngannou would be a gimmick fight, so to say, because he's probably fighting Tyson Fury or someone, or
you think he's going to get that big a name?
I think he's going to get a Fury or a Joshua. The difference with Ngannou is he's going to fight an actual boxer.
Right. I just don't think it's going to be a big name guy.
I guess we'll see, but yeah. I think Ngannou's different because that PFL, they put that clause where he's able to do the boxing fight in his contract for a reason. He's
Correct.
not doing that to fight just anyone.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like all these other fights that the MMA fighters are doing, fighting your Jake Pauls, your just random celebrities that, yeah, they're quote unquote boxers, but they're not fighting for belts.
Correct.
It's you can tell it's literally for the money.
You're not it's a money grab,
yeah.
Right? You're not fighting for any relevance of any sort, right?
No.
And this is the worst part of it, right? Is you dedicated your life. Most of these guys now have dedicated their life to training MMA, and you're just going to drop it on a dime and say it means nothing because I can make more money somewhere else, right? That's bad for the UFC. That's bad for the optics of the sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah. DL Nasty said no different than Wilder.
What's that?
I'm not sure what that. I guess that would be like in the sense of. I guess would that be in the sense of Ngannou in a sense?
Are you talking Ngannou fighting Wilder? Is that?
I think in the sense of like him not taking fights or something.
Oh,
I don't know.
Listen,
I don't know what it was in reference to.
Deontay Wilder was a great boxer, but he was never a guy that was going to compete against Fury. He's not that level.
No.
If that's what you're talking about, I don't really know what you're in reference to with that comment.
But back to where we started off with this. I think it's great that it's coming back to AC. I think it should. I think it should have been back to AC.
Yep.
It's probably gonna be a fight night.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you can get a.
You're not going to get
quote,
a pay-per-view.
Unquote, a pay-per-view in AC? Probably not.
It's not big enough venue.
But the fact that it's even coming back,
right?
Jersey is I wouldn't say MMA hotbed, but it's very, very pivotal in the sense of, like, there's a lot of fighters that have come out.
Yeah, I mean, you got Cage Fury that's right here, right? It's based out of AC. So
the fact that it's back in AC, the fact that it came back to Newark for a pay-per-view, very important, I feel like, as the UFC goes forward, to not only go back to the locations that they started at, but to expand that reach and really solidify a wide variety of markets that have that unique aspect of a fighter corporation, whatever you want to call it, that has reach everywhere, not just nationally, but globally.
Look, AC is kind of affiliated with Philadelphia, right? It's the biggest. It's the biggest city that's close to AC.
You get in the AC, you might get in the Philadelphia.
Correct, but I'm more talking about Philadelphia was the mecca for boxing and fighting, the fight game. All right, before MMA ever became relevant, it was the mecca of the fight game. Atlantic City was the mecca of the fight venue before Vegas took over. Right, all the big Tyson fights were in AC. All the big pay-per-views, they were all held in AC, right? So it is nice to bring that back. I do think that there's not a venue big enough to hold a pay-per-view or a big-time title fight in AC. But like you said, you could hold a fight night where you have a number 4 contender versus a number 3 contender type of thing.
I think you could have a small pay-per-view there. I'm not saying like one of your bigger ones, but maybe like one of your like...
Maybe a female contender main event type of thing.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Or like maybe a interim title fight.
Okay. Yeah.
Where it's like it's not the unifier, but let's say, you had the Nagano situation.
Right.
That fight, you put in AC just to test the waters.
Right.
Maybe it's with 2 guys you're not so sure can carry a pay-per-view.
Correct.
So you're not upset if it fails in AC.
Right. You're testing that market.
You're testing the market. And if it works, you increase your reach there. If it doesn't, You bring back the fight night. Like,
did they say what venue they're going to have it at?
They did not. I just saw the fact that it was going to.
I would assume it's going to be Boardwalk Hall.
I would assume Boardwalk Hall.
Yeah.
Convention Center. That
correct.
Yeah. That type of venue.
Right.
But I don't know. Is there anything else you wanna talk about? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit of football news, right? We got that big release of DeAndre Hopkins this week.
That's
which was shocking.
You see, here's the thing. I don't think that the Hopkins release is a discussion because I'm not surprised. Absolutely shocking they just outright cut him.
Correct.
But there's the reasoning, his cap hit was very high.
Yep.
He wasn't going to take a pay cut, which is probably the most important thing.
Right.
But I think the discussion is, could we be looking at one of the worst NFL seasons of all time?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at maybe
for the Cardinals.
3 win. Yeah,
I think 3 wins could be their ceiling.
You're
and
right.
I'm not saying this as hyperbole, but they might have one of the worst rosters in modern football in a very long time. Let's think about it. They let most of their guys go.
Yep.
They just cut an all-pro receiver.
Yeah.
This is the kicker. Kyler Murray probably is not playing this year.
Right.
He hurt his ACL very late in the year.
Yep.
So he is going to be rehabbing that. Your starting quarterback
no reason
is probably
to bring him
Colt
back.
McCoy.
Yeah.
Your running back room is led by James Conner, who hasn't been healthy enough, right?
Nor is he a top running back when healthy.
You also have a bunch of guys that are, and running back is that type of position.
Yeah.
But you have a bunch of guys that are late round picks. Your wide receiver room, I literally might be taller than their entire wide receiver. They don't have a receiver over the height of 5'9".
Right.
That is literally something you never see in the NFL.
Who's their top guy now? Is it
probably Rondale Moore or Hollywood Brown? Both guys who are not tall and not. And
the other guy is what? Andy Isabella or something? Yeah.
I think they got rid of Isabella.
Oh, really?
Still, yeah.
I don't even know who they have then.
They don't have a great offensive line. On defense, I would be shocked if both of Isaiah Simmons and Budda Baker are still on that roster.
Right.
By the season start.
Yeah, no, they're going to be traded or cut.
Who else is on that team?
There's no one. Yeah.
Who else on that team? You're in a division with and I know the Rams are basically have an entire roster of rookies.
Yep.
So they might be the team in contention with the Cardinals. But I will take Sean McVay over Jonathan Gannon 20 times out of 20.
And I'm taking an injured Matthew Stafford because he's going to fight through injuries. He always does.
I would take Sean McVay with one eye closed over Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah.
That's seeing what's happened.
Right.
You would definitely say that as an Eagles fan.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, Sean McVay is yeah.
They're going to be lucky if they win one division game, considering the Niners and Seahawks are in their division. You're not, and I'll pull up their schedule real fast.
It could be the worst. So this is the first time where I think a team is like really tanking, right? Because it
is outright tanking.
There's that number one guy out there for next year, right? And Caleb Williams.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. He is that prize jewel that everyone is going to be going after.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and Drake May.
Drake May is going to be there. I think it's more going to depend on the year he has. But Caleb Williams right now is your consistent number one pick.
I think they're the top 2 picks, or the top 2 quarterbacks at least.
100% they're the top 2. I think Caleb Williams is the unanimous number 1 right now. If May has a amazing year, maybe he can leap that. But everyone's tanking for Williams. Everyone wants Williams, right?
So Arizona starts their year off, their first 4 games. The Commanders, the Giants, Cowboys, 49ers.
That's 0-4.
They then, the next 4, Cincinnati, Rams, Seahawks, Baltimore. Cleveland, Atlanta, Houston, Rams, Pittsburgh, bye week.
Maybe you get Atlanta.
49ers, Bears, Eagles, Seahawks.
Maybe you get Atlanta. Maybe you get the Bears, depending on how Justin Fields looks. But I don't know any other one right there off that list.
Here's the problem with predicting schedules this far out. We are still in May.
Yeah, you're going to have injuries.
You're going to have injuries. You're going to have trades. You're going to have other roster moves. Teams aren't going to perform the expectations. Teams are going to overperform to what their expectations were. But in the context of right now, and that's important because we are in the moment looking at this right now, I don't think they're better than the Commanders. I think that defense is going to terrorize whoever's at quarterback.
That defense is going to be a great defense this year.
They're not beating the Giants.
No.
They're not beating the Cowboys. They're not beating the 49ers. Bam, 0-4 right off the bat.
Yep.
Unless Joe Burrow is playing with one arm, which the Bengals still might win that game.
Correct.
Cincinnati's beating them.
Yep.
I think Rams is their closest game of the year up to that point, but I still think they lose.
I think the Rams win, yeah.
Because they're in LA. They're losing in Seattle.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson might throw for 7 touchdowns against them. They're not beating Cleveland in Cleveland.
Nope.
I don't see how they stop Atlanta's rushing attack.
That's the game where I think maybe they get off that schneid and get one, but is that home? That's home,
It is
right?
home.
Yeah.
So you could argue that.
Okay.
I would agree. They have a shot. But I think Bijan might run for 120 in that game.
He's going to be their only offense, that's for sure.
Houston is that other game I'd give them a shot in. But Houston might be clicking at that point.
I like Houston, man.
I think they have a better shot against Atlanta than Houston.
My big guy that I have this year when I'm looking for my fantasy draft
Tank Dell?
is I like Nico Collins.
Nico Collins is great. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big Nico Collins guy. I think he's going to have a breakout year.
That is a very good point.
What's that?
Commanders could win this division if Sam Howell is anything. I wouldn't say win the division.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that
I'd say
far.
wild card.
Yeah, I think they could be in the picture for a wild card. Beating the Eagles is going to be tough this year, I think.
D.L. Nasty says, think Isabella was in Baltimore. Yes, that is where he went.
Okay.
That's where he went. Arizona's in tank mode. They could very well have 2 top 5 picks as they also traded
They
traded for Houston's top
pick.
Yeah. So that would be ironic if they were able to beat and as the schedule isn't loading.
Listen, I hold this with no grain of salt whatsoever, but if you did do a mock draft right now for next year's rookie class,
Houston is probably in the top 5.
has the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Arizona has the 1 and 2.
Sorry, Arizona has the 1 and 2.
So I think they lose to Houston. I personally think they lose to Atlanta, but that's the game I think is your best shot to win up to that point. They're not beating the Rams at home.
No.
And they're not beating Pittsburgh.
Nope.
So you might be 0-14 or 1-13 at
1-13, yeah. At best.
You're not beating the 49ers late in the year. The 49ers late in the year are always one of the best teams in football.
Correct.
You're not beating Chicago because I think at that point Justin Fields will be playing very well. I'm expecting a good year from Fields.
See, I expect the opposite.
Okay.
I'm not a Justin Fields guy. I do think that he takes I think his true colors show this year where he's not going to be the man.
Fair enough. And then Eagles, no shot.
No way.
In Philly, no shot.
Way.
And then maybe you win the last game of the year because Seattle's resting starters.
That could be true, but they might be in a playoff fight where they need to win.
Guess what? There is not more than 3 wins on that schedule, tops.
There's 3 iffies. There's 2 possibles. There's a zero chance in play.
Yeah. There is a 0 chance on paper right now at them winning a game. I mean, have we look, the 0-16 Detroit Lions were bad, but they weren't a blatant tank job.
No.
They weren't.
No. They were just bad.
I'd argue the closest thing you have to a blatant tank job was the race for Trevor Lawrence.
There it is.
Because the Jets kept Adam Gase.
Yep.
And the Jacksonville Jaguars were just terrible.
Yep.
But even then, the Jaguars still won a game.
I think they won the last game of the year still, didn't they?
Yes.
I think they won the last game of the year.
Or the Jaguars won 2, the Jets won 3.
Right.
And the Jets beat the best team in the league here, that Rams, which was just ridiculous. It cost them Trevor Lawrence the whole 9 yards. But even those teams, from the onset of the year, they did not trade every single star on their roster. Or cut.
Outright cut your stars.
Jets still had Le'Veon Bell. Jets still had C.J. Mosley.
Yeah.
Jets still had talent on their roster. They had Quinnen Williams.
Yep.
The Jacksonville Jaguars still had pieces on their roster. Not many, but they still had a few. This Cardinals team is absolutely devoid of talent.
There's no star on this
It's
team.
ridiculous.
Yeah, there's
It's
no star
absolutely
on
ridiculous.
this team. They're definitely going for Caleb Williams, in my opinion. They're playing for one guy and one guy only this year, and he's not even on the roster.
I can't blame him. And there's no guarantee.
It's going to be funny because you just signed Kyler.
Oh no, he's gone.
I agree.
Gone.
I agree. He's gone. But you did that twice in a row, right? You traded up to get Rosen.
You're giving the Josh Rosen treatment that Kyler did the Rosen to
Correct.
Kyler.
Exactly.
It's so funny because usually that move is like, oh, who could ever see? Everyone sees it coming. Everyone sees it coming.
Correct.
Now, if they pivot and don't pick Caleb, I will be very confused at the direction of this franchise.
Very shocked. Yeah.
Because you don't tank like this unless you pick a quarterback.
Correct.
The Jets and Jacksonville did it for their quarterbacks. The process was right for the Jets. The result wasn't there. Okay.
Right.
And guess what? That happens in the NFL.
Yeah.
The Eagles missed on Carson Wentz.
Yep.
It happens. But at the end of the day, the overall point is that no team, at least in my recent memory, has ever missed this, or not missed this bad, but like tanked this bad.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't know how high of a grade you give Caleb Williams to get this type of treatment to where there's a team going after him. He's no Trevor Lawrence. He's no Andrew Luck. He's no Peyton Manning.
Caleb Williams, and this is the context I would put around. Caleb Williams might be my favorite quarterback I have watched in the past 5 years. I've watched Trevor. I've watched
Really?
Justin
You put him
Fields.
ahead of Trevor?
On that same level.
Okay.
I'm saying my favorite. I'm not saying he's better, but my personal favorite. Watched Trevor in college. Watched Zach Wilson, who was fun in college. Justin Fields.
Yep.
Kyler Murray. Mahomes wasn't really the best in college, but he was still fun to watch.
He threw for like 5,000 yards or something.
Oh, that Texas Tech team was incredible to watch. All these top guys, they were so fun to watch. Trey Lance was even fun to watch.
Right.
I would never, ever sell out this hard for any player.
Okay.
Any player.
Yeah, I would.
Tank?
I just don't know if Caleb Williams is that player.
No, but this is my point. Selling out this hard for any player. Tanking, I'm fine with.
Right.
Because the Jets tanked, and I was happy with it.
Right.
Because they knew it was going south. The Jaguars tanked because they knew they needed a quarterback.
Correct.
But they didn't sell off every
All-stars.
Single piece, basically. I love what the GM's done with the trades and gathering picks. But you still need pieces on the roster.
Correct.
And now if it doesn't match the timeline, so on and so forth, but you didn't get anything for DeAndre Hopkins. Anything.
Nothing.
Not even a sixth.
You can't give me a fifth rounder? Like, come on. Somebody should have given you a fifth rounder for that. Right? Because now in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, you can hold salary, right?
Yes.
In a trade? So you can't tell me you weren't willing to hold 50% of the salary to get a fourth rounder?
And guess what?
That's ridiculous.
The Cardinals didn't even designate Hopkins with a post June 1st. They ate $24+ million.
That's the point that doesn't make sense, right? Everyone knew you were trading them.
So why aren't you doing that in a trade?
Right.
And especially if Hopkins still wants a significant contract like it's been rumored.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I don't think you're not going to sign this guy for the veteran minimum.
No.
Right? Someone's going to pony up for him.
It makes no sense. It truly doesn't. But to your point, Caleb Williams is no guarantee.
No.
As good as he is, Drake May is no guarantee.
You just said that. Yeah, Drake May could be the number one guy.
Funnily enough, Trevor Lawrence was no guarantee. Zach Wilson was no guarantee. Justin Fields, no quarterback is ever a guarantee.
No. I kind of disagree with you. I mean, I look at guys like a Trevor Lawrence, an Andrew Luck, where I feel pretty confident in saying those are like your real gems that don't come around too often.
Okay. You can guarantee he's going to be a starting quarterback and he'll be fine.
Right.
But you can't guarantee he's going to be a superstar. Look at his rookie year.
I felt pretty good guaranteeing that Trevor Lawrence is going to be a franchise guy. Now, whatever you deem that as could change.
I guess my perspective with it really comes down to you have to be certain that a player is going to be something. And in the NFL, that's not the case.
You're right. It's not a guarantee.
What I'm saying is when you're doing your evaluation throughout the year and you come across, yes, I agree. Trevor, I think, was always going to be a very good quarterback.
Right.
But from the onset, before a guy has even played a game of his draft-eligible college year, to do this?
Yeah.
That's we are like, it's, for me at least, in my opinion, it's like an uncharted territory.
Right.
Where a team has blatantly sold out for the next year.
Correct.
Blatantly pushing everything into next year and being like, we're locking in for this season.
So do you, and I'm not going to say this is related or anything like that, but it's more and more when this younger generation gets to be in charge of running real teams, they're so used to running their Madden teams, right? Are you going to start seeing more and more people running real franchises like they do their Madden franchises when they were younger?
I think to an extent. I think to an extent because, I think GMs are getting more creative.
Correct.
They're going to get more creative with trades and how they build teams. And I think that's a good thing.
And how you contract the contracts.
Yes.
How you structure them.
I think that's a good thing because team building, everyone does the same thing. You start seeing more unique team builds, more ways of building a roster.
Right.
Look at the Howie Roseman model.
Yeah.
Very unique, but it works.
People are going to start taking that model, I'm sure, yes.
So, getting into some of the comments, we got DL Nasty saying the last time I remember this bad, it was the Khalil Lemon Dolphins. That might be before my time.
Yeah.
It's definitely before my time. We got a fourth for Swift. Exactly.
Correct. That's what I mean. Like, how can you not get a fourth? I know the money's higher. I think his price tag was 19. But why wouldn't Arizona hold some of that? It makes no sense.
Now, we'll get to this comment in a sec. Wanted to get to Don. So I thought Deshaun Watson was going to be a top pick, but the Bears took Mitch over him. Exactly. Things can change like that.
Yeah.
But Watson was always that guy in college. It was very similar.
Right. I never put that ceiling on him like I did. Like I said, I did. An Andrew Luck or something.
I mean, I thought he was. All Deshaun Watson behavior aside, obviously.
On field,
I thought he was always going to be a good quarterback.
Right.
Always.
Right.
He was one of those guys where he was just one of those guys that just won.
I thought. See, when you say franchise quarterback, there's two different meanings to that, right? Franchise quarterback is he's going to be my guy that's going to lead me for 10 years, or a franchise quarterback is going to be that guy that's going to win me 4 Super Bowls.
Fair.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a fair criteria. Absolutely. Right. He said, DL Nasty said, you can tell younger guys are more aggressive because 5-10 years ago, trade deadlines meant nothing. Now
correct.
Actually moves.
Yep.
This is the last thing I think we should get to.
Okay.
We're getting close to time here.
Yep.
Damian Hernandez. Cardinals not getting rid of Kyler to get Caleb. They paid Kyler way too much money just to let him go. To waste, that would be stupid. In the moment, yes.
Right.
That was the thought process.
Right.
Things done changed as plenty of songs have said.
Yes.
In the sense of, this is a new regime. They did not draft Kyler
This
Murray.
is not their guy. Right.
He is not their guy. Number 2, timeline. This is the bright neon star, the bright flashing light that I will bring to this point.
Yeah.
The timeline of this new Cardinals regime, if you can't tell, definitely does not match the regime of a quarterback that they gave all that money to. Let alone a quarterback that is coming off an ACL injury, let alone a quarterback that relies on his movement skills, let alone a quarterback that is severely undersized in terms of the rest of the guys in the NFL.
Yeah, it seems like they're working on they know they have 4 years or so to turn this around. Yeah.
The guys that were hired to run this Cardinals organization know that they have time, know that they have the ability to kind of just
you can tell that by the moves they're making, right?
Yeah.
By the trades that they're doing and the releases that they're making, they feel confident knowing that the ownership is not looking for a 1-year turnaround.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is going to be a multiple-year process for them.
Gannon going by week 8, LOL. So it goes.
He's not going by week 8, guys.
It goes to show Murray, I think, could be in line for the Jared Goff deal. where the Cardinals have to move a pick with Murray
Yeah.
to get him off the books.
Well, there's going to be a lot of that, right? You're going to have a Stafford, who they
Right.
might want to move that contract. You're going to have a Kirk Cousins, who
He's
they
a
might
free
want to
agent.
move. Oh, Cousins is going to be a free
After
agent?
this year.
Okay. But you don't know what's going on with Jimmy G.
I mean, well,
Right.
that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah, the injury factor now.
There's a clause in that contract. If he fails a physical,
they could get out of the money.
They're out of it scot-free.
Correct.
Nothing.
Correct.
Nothing paid. But
if he stays, you don't know if Russell Wilson has another bad year.
Right.
Is
Denver's
that something?
Trying to get out of that.
Yeah, is that something? So there are moves that they could do to kind of offset money for them.
And it speaks to the whole conversation of, GMs becoming more creative.
Yep.
This is a situation where, unlike years past, teams are going to find a way to move off that guy. Teams are going to find a way to get out of that deal. I don't think Kyler Murray is long for the Cardinals because he doesn't match their time frame. He's always going to ask out.
He's going to want out.
Kyler Murray has won his entire life in everything that he has done. Look it up. Look what he did in high school.
Even in baseball.
Yeah. Football, baseball. This is not a guy, and I can't blame him.
Nope.
I can't blame him.
Nope.
He's going to want to win football games, and he has the talent to win a team football games. Look, let's face it, no matter what the narratives around him, some teams have quarterback issues. Some team is going to have issues. They're going to want to trade for a player of Kyler Murray's caliber. 1,000%.
Just, and I hate saying this name too. I've said two of the worst Philadelphia names in history right now, but Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
He might get another chance somewhere.
Wouldn't shock me.
It's not going to shock me. It's not going to shock me.
So it's very interesting. It's very intriguing because this Cardinals situation, I think, is going to be a fun one to watch as we go throughout the year. And I mean, the Raiders won too, but that's a completely different story.
Yeah,
so I think that brings us to the end of.
I think we're at that time, guys. It is getting busy out here. Just to let everyone know again, here at All Campus 1028 Boardwalk, stop on up. We have a deal going on right now where all of the NL Championship shirts are $10. All the championship hats are 50% off. So come on up, get your championship stuff. And we still do have some of the custom hats. We're running low on a lot of sizes, but we still have them left, guys.
All right, so thank you guys for joining us on another great edition of the Rant Booth, and we will catch you guys next time. Have a great day.
Take care, guys.